I was born here in 1954. Okay, but I'm an Army brat by trade. I came back here at certain times. Okay, and all my family is from here. Grandparents and all that other good stuff.
Okay.
But I was passing through, and I was lucky enough I was raised at Army bases. My name is Samuel R Coleman Jr., and you may have seen as you come in, there's a man in an Army uniform, black man. That was Samuel R Coleman Sr.
Okay.
27 years U.S. Army.
So, where were you born at?
Middlesboro, Kentucky, there's a little hospital. There's not a little hospital. There's a big hospital that is now closed. I was born in Middlesboro, Kentucky, the 8th day of August, 1954.
Okay. Tell me, what were your parents' names?
Betty Lou Coleman, and she still lives at 203 Rochester. And about, 17, 18 years ago, my father, Samuel R Coleman Sr., passed away, Agent Orange. Killed him. But he is buried out at Lynch Cemetery, I may have told you about. So.
And what was your mother's maiden name?
Burton. Her father was a coal miner that came this way from Georgia, because this was one of the first places that paid same pay for blacks underground. It was segregated like the rest of the world, or the country at that time, but when you went underground, it was same work, same pay, first man. And I imagine in those days that was a major drive. As I've done some research, because of it was the pauper cemetery, and black people also got buried there. But as I've gone through there, and I got family in there and all that other good stuff, there's Lebanese in there, and there's Jewish. That's where everybody except the completely white people were sent. And you got a great history of the diversity of this community. Lebanese community in Middlesboro, Kentucky. Whoa, yes, there was.
Do you remember where do you know where your granddad mined at?
All throughout Georgia. My mother was born in West Virginia, Harlan, as I understand. The sheriff in Harlan asked him to leave Harlan County. He was too wild for Harlan County. I can't imagine what that must have been like. But they came to Middlesboro, and Grandmama told Bill, that's enough of that. Now you got to stop this. And they lived, and for as far as we were concerned, Middlesboro was home. Now, my father was born in Baxter, Kentucky, which is part of Harlan. Just as you come in, there's a big metal bridge, and that was the black community. Okay? I had other family up in Harlan County. A Worthington. He was big in the UMW. I'll never forget, Dad was stationed at Fort Belvoir, and Uncle June showed up. And he had his suit in a briefcase, and he said, I got a meeting in Washington, D.C. I thought I'd come by and say, "Oh, well, Mom, of course, said, come in here. You'll stay with us, and that's the way that's going to be." And we got to talking, and they found out they got to talking. And them days, kids didn't talk; they weren't in conversations. He was going to the White House. And he
Now,
said,
what was his name again?
June Worthington.
June Worthington.
And he had his suit in his suitcase. Of course, Mom said, "No, we got to do better." So she took it out and washed it and dried it. And said, "Okay, you're going to the White House. We're going to send you there right." And away you go. But there's a lot of widows and stuff that got their black lung because Uncle June got it for them. And let's face it, the UMW, it's now called ARH Hospital, but the UMW built all those places first. And the UMW, buddy, got a lot of widows, their pensions and stuff like that. But that was a family, but Dad decided he wasn't going into coal mines. Joined the U.S. Army. After he got drafted, he decided to stay. And away we went. I grew up at Fort Huachuca, Arizona, Fort Lewis, Washington, Fort Ord, California, Fort Hood, Texas. But on occasion, when Dad went somewhere we couldn't go, we'd come back home. Okay, I guess it was 65 or 66. We came back, and it was just before they integrated the schools here. And for 9 days before school was out, we got back here. Mom said, "You're not staying here sitting in the house." So they sent me to Lincoln Colored School, which was where her and Dad didn't graduate, but she graduated from. So for 9 days, I was a Lincoln Tarzan. And that was their thing, the Tarzans. I said, okay, only in America does that work. But I said, hey, okay, this is good. And away you go. You've probably seen, if you've been in here, you've seen pictures of the building and all that other good stuff. And they used to have reunions, but right now, if you figured I was born in 1954, you can imagine I was in the 3rd grade. But the next year we integrated. And Easton Elementary has now been tore down and gone, where the new school they built for us, or built for the integration. And the famous tale I remember is Mom telling me, I came home after going there for a couple of days and said, "Where are all the other kids?" "Well, honey, no, there's no China. I was used to going to military schools where there were Chinese and everything. So where are the rest of them?" And she said, "Honey, they don't have none there." But the next year, we went in a new school, and away we go. But you may have heard of a guy from Middlesboro, Kentucky by the name of Greg Page. He was the first black to integrate the Southeastern Conference. He got a scholarship to the University of Kentucky to play football. He got killed up there on a practice field. He dated my sister, and we used to go out in the good old days to Bradner Stadium, where you couldn't get another person in the place, because on a Friday night, that was life in Middlesboro, Kentucky, the football game. And he, like I said, ended up recruiting the first black to be recruited in the Southeastern Conference to play athletics, Greg Page. So,
and he got killed on the field.
Yeah, got hurt out there, broke his neck. He's buried right here in Middlesboro. His mother and father all attended the church that my grandparents built. Right over, that's the one on Mount Moriah Baptist Church.
When you guys were in Middlesboro, did you go to Mount Moriah, or was there another home church for you?
No, we always, my grandparents, my grandmothers and stuff, 19th Street used to be the black part of town. And all the Savoy, the Plaza, and all those were out there. And they were talking about Dizzy Gillespie, and folks would be coming through there on their way further south to make a few dollars and move on. But there were clubs that you didn't go in unless you had a suit on. You know, Brother Richard, our senior deacon, he told us about that and named the places. And they used to make dinners and sell them to make money for the church. And I am now the treasurer of the church.
Which church?
Mount Moriah Baptist.
Okay.
And they bought the lot, 3 lots, sit over there on 19th Street for $375. Where the church sits right now today, in 1906. Okay, it was probably 1925, 26, where they finally built the upper portion, which has all the steeples and all that other stuff. Has some beautiful stained glass in the place. But I am about the 4th generation, and my children the 5th generation member in Mount Moriah Baptist Church, which they just decided they wanted to make me a deacon. We'll leave that to the wisdom of the Lord and move on from there.
When you came back and integration happened, did you, after around that time, did y'all leave back out and come back again, or?
Yes.
Yeah.
Left back out. Dad was doing a year tour in Vietnam.
Okay.
That was his first tour. Now we hit a few more bases and stuff like that. It's my sophomore year. He gets orders to Würzburg, Germany. We do the first year, the second year in Würzburg, Germany. Then he gets ordered to Vietnam. We're going into my senior year. Well, Mom says, I remember her quote, "I ain't staying over here. Get your stuff back." And I did my senior year and graduated from Middlesboro High School. And away we go. I went down to Hiawassee Junior College, off to Tennessee Wesleyan, and that thing just cut off. And away we go.
Yeah.
When I got out of college, I had a degree in behavioral science and a teaching certificate And I hate to say, I saw what school teachers made, and I decided to join the military.
So tell us a little bit about, because Tennessee Wesleyan probably hadn't been integrated that much longer before you showed up, right? Or,
Well, you may have heard then of Hiawassee Junior College.
right.
Yeah, that's where I first went to. Donnie Jenkins was the coach.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate to say it, they asked me to leave there. I was enjoying myself just a tad bit too much. But hey, that was a life. And a great man by the name of Dwayne Farmer was the head basketball coach.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, okay, Sam, they were going to let me in school, but they said I had to live with the coach and his family. So I spent the first semester down there with the coach's family and his two daughters. And I thought, okay, God, please help me. But I finally got my, I grew up and Coach took the chance on me.
Mm-hmm.
And I graduated on time.
Yeah.
And away we go.
What was that? What was it like in Athens? Because Athens had a significant black community, right? And were you primarily just on campus and campus life and sports, or were you out in the community much? And what was that atmosphere like in Athens?
You ever been in Athens?
Uh-huh.
You know some R-Wines down there? Donnie R-Wine and that bunch? They all played back. Look at me and you can tell I don't miss a meal. And on Sunday, I found me a church that was feeding, and I was there.
Okay.
That was the way that happened. Because let's face it, the school food leaves a bit to be desired. They tried hard, but boy. The R-Wines, they just took you in, and they took care of you. You were a black young man trying to make it. They were going to help. The R-Wine and his mother, we still, like I said, my wife's from Loudon, Tennessee. We wander back through there. And every once in a while, we run into one another. I played baseball. When I attended college, I played basketball and baseball. Mm-hmm. And I got friends for life down there. Mm-hmm. And that's just the way that is.
How did you meet your wife?
Well, I had to go to summer school 1 year, and my roommate, I got to go home. Dad, at that time, was stationed at Fort Belvoir, getting ready to get out. And I told him, I got to go to Belvoir. We took him home to Loudon. And I was getting ready to leave there, and I told his mother, I'll be coming back, but I got to go to Belvoir or Quantico. He said, no, boy, you don't need to be driving all the way up there. Get your father on the phone. And she talked to Dad and said, he can stay with us until we get back. Okay, the story is now I'm staying there. And I'm just another kid in the house. And in Loudon on Sunday, they go up to the old black school and they play basketball. And all the little girly girls sit around and stare at you. Mm. Well, that's where Yarber Cecilia Harrison and her 3 or 4 other sisters all lived with their uncle. And away we went. Uh-huh. And of course, they were gagging, and you were out there in your tank top and your shorty shorts and your tube socks and cool. Hey, baby girl. And we started dating. We dated 4 or 5 years, and she ended up going to LMU,
okay,
Lincoln Memorial University. My parents liked her. My grandmother, Miss Isabel Sims, we called her Mama, said, you're going to marry that girl.
Wait, there was somebody kin to Isabel Sims.
Yes, Mabel.
Yeah.
Her mother and my father were brother and sisters. Mama was both of our grandmothers. 102 years old but she was the sage. We had to make her stop walking the railroad tracks because she got deaf and couldn't hear the train. I said, Mama, you gotta get off the tracks. It just ain't gonna work. But, hey, as I keep, the word around the family is, you need to do right by your family, or otherwise one night you'll wake up and Mama will be standing at the end of your bed, pointing the crooked finger at you. Something bad gonna happen. Mm-hmm.
So you, kind of wheeling back a little bit, back to when you were in Middlesboro High School. Mm-hmm. Did you play sports then?
Yes, I played football, basketball, baseball, and ran track.
What were some of the rivalries?
You may have heard of Lynch. The last year we played, my senior year was the last year before they closed Lynch. But Pineville, you've never been out to the school, but they built a nice new gymnasium and it had the bleacher seat. When we played Pineville, you could not. I've seen the fire marshal come in there and put people out because they just couldn't stand. When Middlesboro played football, you could have stole the other part of the town and nobody would say nothing because they wouldn't. Until, of course, the game, all the police, all the ambulances, and anybody of any importance was at the football game. It was well, what else did you have in this part of Appalachia?
And so once you got to Wesleyan, who was the rivalries there? What were some of the rivalries?
LMU.
LMU.
Yeah, we were normally 1 and 2 in the conference, and away you go. And for us, that was the world. Of course, the big dogs were Tennessee and Kentucky and all that stuff. But hey, I got out of school, and now I appreciate it. I didn't know anybody a dime. Yeah. And that made a difference. I got 2 sons, and I paid half of their tuition and stuff, and they're still trying to pay off their school.
So you get out of Tennessee Wesleyan. What do you do?
I go around, look, I got to go work, okay? And I said, well, military. I know a little bit about that. And the Army recruiter, I guess, he just didn't set me off. And right next door was a Marine recruiter. And the Marine has a program where you can go, and if you don't like it in 10 weeks of OCS, you can go home. And I said, let's give it a try. And the last day of August, 1976, I reported to Quantico Marine Corps Base. And I said, okay, what the hell have I done? And they talked a little nasty to me. And actually, the 27th of August, I am going to my rackmate and his wife's 50th anniversary. I have made friends for life. The Marine Corps, it's not for everybody, but at that time, I needed some attitude adjustment, and they adjusted my attitude properly. But hey, I stayed in for 12 years. About the 4th deployment out of there in harm's way, and one of my claims of fame, I kind of figured out, I deployed 4 times as an infantry officer. I figured I took about 500 Marines in harm's way, and I brought 500 Marines back. And right behind the accomplishment of becoming a Christian, marrying the love of my life, and having 2 beautiful children and 2 grandchildren, okay, bringing back all those young men is my 3rd greatest accomplishment in the world today. But the wife put her foot down and said, both of my sons were bigger than me. And they said, fella, you help make these babies. It's time for you to settle up here. They need dad to thump them on the head every now and then and say, no, that ain't working. So I got out my suit and I went to interviewing. And a small oil company by the name of ExxonMobil said, come on down. I had a brother-in-law, Naval Academy graduate, who was working there. He said, take the interview just to get practice. I said, yeah, why not? Went to the first interview, got ready to leave. I said, okay, that wasn't all that bad. And before I could get out of the headquarters, it's up around D.C. area, he said, Sam, can you come back in? I said, okay, yeah. Da-da-da-da-da. Got ready to leave again. They said, Sam, come back. Come on in for a minute. We'd like to offer you a job. And by the way, here's what we pay. I said, okay, 3 times what I'm making now as a captain in the Marine Corps. Can I manage this? I think I can make it work. So as I like to say, I made 3 times as much money. I went from living in and working in mud holes to living in the Hilton, and nobody shooting at me. Yeah, I think I can do this. So I ended up running part of Florida out of Boca Raton, Florida. That was really tough.
Yeah.
I was taking my clients to Doral to go play golf.
No.
You know,
Yeah.
and just put it on my corporate card.
Yeah.
Got it covered. Don't worry.
Yeah.
But about 12 years after that, Dad died. And I tried to get Betty Coleman out of Middlesboro, Kentucky. And Betty Coleman's quote was, "Boy, I don't know whether I'm going to heaven or hell, but I'm going from Middlesboro, Kentucky. Do you understand?" Samuel R Coleman Jr. Yes, ma'am. I knew what that meant. So I said, "Honey, pack up your stuff." I went in and told my boss at ExxonMobil, "I'm going to have to let this go." He said, "Nobody ever quits ExxonMobil." Yeah, because you ain't got Betty Coleman, so I got to go. Bye.
Yeah.
I showed up here, I didn't have a job. Now, I understand, ExxonMobil, I had some money in the bank. I had two matches to rub together and stuff like that. But, you know, hey, I didn't have a job. But, you know, you pray about it a little bit. And a guy that went to school behind me, who's now the president of Southeast Kentucky Community and Technical College, "Sam, you were working in business and gas stations and stuff like this. We need a new director for the Southeast Kentucky Small Business Development Center." Okay. At that time, the coal industry was going south, and then the president of the school said, "We need to get somebody in Southeast Kentucky to try to help retool the business. Okay? We're going to have to go from the coal industry to something else." Because not only was the coal industry the major employer, but it was the major supporter of all the other employees. You know, fixing coal trucks and all that other stuff was fed by the coal industry. And it was just like Detroit. What happened to Detroit? If you've ever been to Detroit, go drive through Detroit now and see that looks like great homes just boarded up. Because, you know, this guy was making six figures and all of a sudden his business is, or the business he supported the car in it went away. So he said, "I could go." Because, you know, family gets used to eating and all that other good stuff. So I said, "Good challenge, sounds good." And I knew the people I was working for. And he said, "You'll have to teach a class or two." And I said, "Yeah, I've never used this education diploma I got. I think I got to try to give it a try." So that's what I was doing. I got involved in the state Human Rights Commission. I was on, the governor appointed me to that for a while. I also got in a love of mine, the Kentucky African American Heritage Commission, which is basically Black history. And well, I'm still on that commission, and away we go. But this is home. And I guess most people don't appreciate home until somebody tells you you can't go home. Okay? Well, the Marine Corps says, "Sorry, Sam, we got some idiot over in Afghanistan that needs your attention right now. Let's go. Bye." So back home I got, and as I like to say, my nieces and nephew need me. All right? And away we go. And that's what we've been doing ever since. The wife's from Loudon. I probably got one more move left in me, but as long as Betty Coleman is in this world, I will be here. And that's just the way that's going to be. Well, I've noticed one thing in the Black community, especially for the youth, is you got to go. You got to leave from here. And that's exactly what my father told me. Because I said, "I can go work in the coal mine. I can make money. I got me a new car." Dad said, "Hell no. Get your stuff back, boy. You're going to school. You're going to school somewhere." And of course, maybe these days you would think about saying no to Dad. I never even imagined that. Okay. But, you know, hey, like I said, I have that strange or that different way of looking at things because I was, you know, we can't go. Okay. You know, we're out in California or someplace like that. Or, you know, I got to get these Marines ready to deploy. I'm sorry, I can't make it. Okay, well, Dad is sick. Dad had Agent Orange and stuff like that. Or I was with ExxonMobil. And, you know, you got work, Sam. Okay, I got to do Yarber. The wife has been very supportive. You know, go do what you got to do. It was lucky enough, my job made us flexible enough. Get you an airplane ticket and go do what you got to do. And away you go. But as you finally figure that you're not going to live forever, hey, these relationships, grandmommy and mama, family, boy, do you understand? Okay, and sooner, just like with most parents, sooner or later, like my boys told me, one time both of them have told me, how in the hell did you do it? What do you mean? How did you raise us and feed us all the time? And it may not have been a Taj Mahal, but you kept a roof over our head. And they're living out in Denver, Colorado, and you can't imagine what the cost of living is out there yet. That's, they told me what they pay on a 2-bedroom apartment is more than I pay on a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-story garage on a acre of land here in Tazewell, Tennessee.
Now, what are your kids' names?
Samuel Ray Coleman III and Christopher Ty Coleman.
And they're both in Colorado.
They're both in Denver, Colorado. Okay, and let us not leave out Shakaya Darrington. That's my granddaughter who just graduated from high school. I went, Granddaddy, I'm going to graduate. Can you come down? Get in the car, honey. We're on the road. And my youngest son has an 18-year-old and a 2-year-old. I said, boy, what do you know what you're doing? Okay, but I do now understand why my father, who was the most disciplined man I've ever known, his grandchildren turned that man to butter. Until you have a grandchild, and his rule was you do not spank the grandchildren at my house. And if you get in granddaddy's lap, you're safe. It's all done. It doesn't matter.
Home base.
Hey, I don't care if you burn the house down. Many things are important. You got to eat and you got all that other stuff. But I remember the most valuable thing my grandparents gave to me was the worth of family. You know what? I can remember if I was close to my Aunt Enda's house in supper time, I'm going to eat. I never thought about it and stuff like that. And I was older. I was in the Marine Corps. I had just come through here, and I needed to cash a check because we were getting ready to take off, going somewhere. And I needed about $2,000-$3,000 to get on the road. And I had a check from Navy Federal Credit Union. My checkbook was a Navy Federal Credit Union in Jacksonville, North Carolina. And I said, Ma, I need to write this check. Can you come to the bank with me? Boy, I'm making supper. I can go. You just tell them who you are and go down to the bank and get your check cashed. And I said, Mom, and then, of course, I got my full name, Samuel R Coleman Jr. Did you hear what I told you? Yes, ma'am. So I get my checkbook, and I get all my identification out, and I head down to the bank. And I don't know if it was commercial or whatever, but I got there, and then I looked at all the tellers, and I got in line with the oldest lady that I saw in there. I said, okay. And I finally get to the front of the line with it might have been a $4,000 or $5,000 check. Okay, personal check. I said, ma'am, I'm Captain Coleman, United States Marine Corps. I need to cash this check. And I started military IDs, driver's license, all that stuff. I'm playing it out. And she tilts her head, I'll never forget it, looks at me and says, "You Betty and Sam's boy, ain't you?" I said, "Yes, ma'am." She just starts counting off money.
Yeah, didn't even look at that.
How's Betty doing? You be sure to tell her I said your grandbaby's all right. I said, "Honey, you just gave away $5,000 to myself, of course." Yeah. I said, "You just gave away $5,000. No, you're Betty and Sam." We had the conversation. I said, "Well, ma'am, I gotta go," and stuff like that. And I said, there's in Boca Raton, I'd have never got that cash. He said, "Nope, sorry, ain't happening, fellas." And you don't appreciate it until hey, I'm Sam and Betty's baby. I still get a talk. "You're Sam and Betty's baby boy, aren't you?" "Yes, ma'am." And you don't appreciate it until you can't go home. And that's, I guess, the thing that hits me most. They're told they got to get away from here. They go, but boy, aren't those reunions good. And we're doing a new thing at my family. We're going to get together every summer where we don't take anybody up to Lynch Cemetery. Everybody's going to damn go home after we all get together, and we introduce the new nephews and nieces to their new nephews and nieces. They ought to know somebody. They ought to know, as Mama would say, you need to know your people. Okay? Because you don't want to be marrying no niece. You know, you don't want to have double cousins and things like that. Back in the old days, we'd take you up to Mount Moriah Baptist Church. God, they used to cook there. Now I know I'm the treasurer. We cater.
Oh, yeah.
But used to, grandmama and them, first they'd get it out of their gardens. Then they'd cook it in there. And I always used to say, my grandmama and my mama shut down Moore's church services because it was downstairs from the church. And they start cooking.
That smell.
and hey, Dad say, I think it's about time this be over, fellas, because me and the grandbaby's going downstairs because it's chow time.